Hi everyone, welcome back to Radio Night Crime. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's case. Story 1. Dr. Paolo Macchiarini, an Italian surgeon whose name once blazed through the medical world for his groundbreaking plastic trachea transplants. And over here, the extravagant wedding his fiancée, Benita Alexander, a powerhouse filmmaker and media maven, had pinned her wildest hopes on. She dreamed of a fairy tale, complete with the Pope's blessing, only for it to twist into a jaw-dropping betrayal, caught red-handed before a stunned crowd. Now, we're not chasing killers or thieves, just a scandal that'll rattle your bones. True crime. In the world guarantees this one's a roller coaster, so buckle up and stay with us to the end. First, meet our leading lady, Benita Alexander, a New York titan of film and media, producer, editor, a name that hums with prestige. 9. Emmy nods, 2 wins in her pocket. Her documentaries don't just wow the critics. They pull in viewers like moths to a flame. She's a woman in her prime, cash-flowing, a chic pad, and a style that cuts like glass. Now, our leading man, his story's even wilder. Paolo Macchiarini, born in Switzerland, forged in Italy, a global legend in heart and chest surgery, a master of organ transplants. He's a guest professor at Sweden's Karolinska Institute, where Nobel Prizes in medicine are crowned, and lectures at 6 other top med schools across the world. Paolo's work? Pure genius. His team could whip up plastic tracheas custom fit for each patient, layer them with stem cells, and stitch them into living bodies. Once inside, these grafts dodged the body's defenses, the stem cells sparking new tissue to wrap around them, a flawless fusion of man-made and mortal. It was a medical marvel, a thunderbolt that shook the world of transplants to its core. That brilliance shot him to the top. He jetted across continents, lectures in one city, scalpels flashing in another, a rock star healer. But it wasn't all skill. He had soul. In broke nations, he'd slice and stitch for free, covering gear and recovery out of his own pocket. Take 2013. He funded a trachea transplant for Hannah, a 2-year-old Korean girl, flying her to Illinois, USA. Born with a twisted windpipe, she'd had a third of it hacked out just to gasp air, tied to machines and tubes from day one, food a distant dream. Luck struck. Her cord blood, stashed at birth, brimmed with stem cells. She became Paolo's tiniest patient, a fragile trailblazer. He reckoned 6 months post-op. She'd ditch the tubes and breathe free. A year later, she'd race with kids her age, no extra ops, no lifelong pills. That surgery lit up the airwaves. Folks glued to the news, asking what else could we swap for plastic. Cue Benita Alexander, razor-sharp producer. She caught the scent of a blockbuster, rallied her crew with fire in her veins, vowing to film every heartbeat, bursting to blast this miracle across the globe. But as the cameras hummed, something shifted. Benita, toughened by years in showbiz, numb to chiseled jaws, found herself swept away by Paolo's pull. She'd brushed off plenty of pretty faces, empty glitter or sly climbers eyeing her clout. Paolo hit different, poised, whip-smart, with a sly humor that sliced through her guard. Divorced for years, raising her 9-year-old solo, Benita felt a surge when their eyes met, a jolt that hummed through her core. Yet documentaries demand cold truth. Falling for your star is a forbidden line. So, despite the sparks flying on set, they held back, teetering on the edge. Hannah's surgery wrapped, recovery began, and filming faded out. Untethered, they escaped to Europe. In Venice, cradled by its shimmering canals, their lips locked, a kiss that sealed their plunge. Paolo, a world-class surgeon, lived in overdrive. He claimed 2 decades bouncing the globe, cutting, teaching, patching up VIPs like British royals, US presidents, even the Pope. His Italian ex-wife couldn't take the endless drift. They'd split long ago. Still, no matter how packed his hours, he doted on Benita with finesse. In the kitchen, he wielded a chef's magic, scalpel in the or skillet at home. Mornings, he'd swipe her lipstick, scribbling love notes on the mirror. Nights, he'd tease Bach from an old piano for her and her girl. He even secretly trained to dance, spinning her into a breathless surprise. As their love flared, tragedy struck. Hannah didn't pull through. Post-op complications stole her away. The news crushed Benita. She'd grown tight with the girl on set, plotting yearly Korea trips with Paolo to watch her bloom, wed, have kids. Hannah wasn't just their link. She was their love's heartbeat. The failed graft stalled the film. Real stories crave happy endings to hit home. Her career dented. Love stood firm. 6 months deep, Paolo dropped to one knee, a diamond ring gleaming. Crafted by a British master, its pigeon egg stone worth nearly $100,000. Benita's yes came fast. At her age, true love was too precious to fumble. And so the wedding wheel started spinning. Dr. Paolo Macchiarini waved off Benita's worries with a cool confidence. Don't sweat a thing. I've got the connections and the cash to make this flawless. Her only job? Show up radiant on the big day. He even texted her a photo of Florence's grand cathedral, promising their vows would ring out beneath its ancient arches. A vow that lit her up inside. Benita's heart swelled with emotion, though a flicker of doubt danced in her mind. Both divorced. Could a Catholic priest really bless their union? Paolo didn't flinch. The Pope's my patient. One word from me and a priest's no problem. His certainty silenced her qualms, wrapping her in a glow of trust. She wavered, half believing, until days later his next text landed. I've locked in our officiant. It's the Pope himself. He spun a tale too wild to doubt. The current pontiff, a reformer, saw their wedding as a golden chance. Barring remarried folks from church weddings, that's ancient history. It's time for a shake-up. We're influencers, Benita. Our day's a spotlight for his cause. Officiating for us boosts his image and proves the church can embrace divorcees with open arms. She molded over and it clicked. Wild but plausible. A rush of joy hit her. She couldn't wait to share it. She called friends, family, anyone who would listen, then fired off invites with a bold headline. You are cordially invited to our Pope-officiated wedding. While Benita hustled with her guest list, Paolo wasn't slacking. His Rolodex read like a who's who of power. The Clintons, the Obamas, the Beckhams, Cristiano Ronaldo with his fiancée, crooner John Legend, and the world's golden tenor, Andrea Bocelli. The singers even signed in on to serenade the crowd. What started as a one-day affair ballooned into 4, packing in a bombshell twist. Every gay couple there could snag a papal blessing, a rebaptism, and a church-sanctioned bond. Benita's longtime gay friends jumped at it. NDAs and a $3,000, 3,000 euro fee be damned, swelling the guest count from under 100 to nearly 500. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. It was a royal-grade extravaganza rolling out of control like a snowball down a cliff. Benita threw herself into the prep with gusto, hitting the gym hard, perfecting her dance moves, even cramming French, Italian, and Spanish to recite her vows in a multilingual flourish. Everything hummed along. The wedding loomed as a dazzling masterpiece. Paolo painted a future so bright it hurt to imagine. Homes in Switzerland, Italy, Spain, and southern France. Too many to live in, he'd chuckle. After the I-dos, they'd root down in Europe. Her daughter enrolled in the continent's finest art schools. For Benita, it was all in. She quit her New York job, put her apartment on the block, ready to stake the rest of her life on being a doctor's wife. But just as the pieces slid into place, a storm brewed out of nowhere. The hospital where Hannah had her transplant dropped a bombshell. Paolo botched it, glossing over post-op risks, skimping on prep, setting off a chain of complications that killed the girl. They severed academic ties, and her family sued for damages. Paolo, a giant in medicine, felt the sting of outrage for the first time. Clutching the lawsuit papers, he stormed to Benita, voice tight. You're the media pro. Fix this PR disaster. Benita froze at his demand, her mind reeling. Wait, aren't you the one with all the pull, she thought. Nobel Prizes practically line your driveway. Popes, presidents, they're all in your pocket, right? So why not call them to fix this? Why dump it on me, an entertainment gal, to clean up your mess? Still, She swallowed her shock and dialed up magazine editors and lawyers she knew, hoping for a lifeline. But every call hit a wall. They shook their heads, powerless. In the U.S., Dr. Oversight's a state game, each with its own playbook. No one could touch a jet-setting surgeon like Paolo. When she couldn't flip the script, Paolo's warmth turned to frost. Using a Russia lecture as an excuse, he ghosted her for 2 weeks, not a whisper about the wedding he'd once gushed over. Desperate to thaw the chill, Benita dug into her own pocket for another European getaway. Part spark rekindler, part venue scout. In Florence, Paolo started stalling, excuses piling up like bricks. The cathedral's under repair one day, the chef's on vacation the next. Benita pressed him, questions stacking fast, and his patience snapped. "I told you the wedding's my gig," he barked. "Why do you keep nagging?" Then, tossing out an emergency surgery in Ukraine, he ditched her cold in Italy. Benita trudged back to New York alone, deflated, only to face a bigger gut punch. Her assistant pinged her a news link. July 10th. The Pope's slated for South Africa. That's their wedding day. Panic surged. She dialed Paolo fast. "What's happening here?" His reply was ice calm. "Let me check it out." Benita trudged back to New York alone, deflated, only to face a bigger gut punch. Her assistant pinged her a news link. July 10th. The Pope's slated for South Africa. That's their wedding day. Panic surged. She dialed Paolo fast. "What's happening here?" His reply was ice calm. "Let me check it out." For days ticked by before Paolo tossed her an explanation. Pope Francis and the retired ex-pope, a die-hard conservative, had clashed over their wedding. The old guard saw red. It's a second marriage for both, plus a mass baptism for gay couples. Too wild, too explosive, a controversy waiting to ignite. So the traditionalists pulled strings, shoving Francis off to South Africa at the 11th hour to keep him from showing up. After over a year drowning in love's haze, Benita finally snapped awake. That flimsy tale was the last straw. She knew what she had to do, what she should have done long ago. She tracked down to the Vatican press office and grilled them about the South Africa trip. Their answer hit hard. The Pope's travel plans lock in over a year out. Barring a crisis, they don't budge. Definitely no last-minute shuffles. She wasn't done. "What about Dr. Paolo? Is he the Pope's doc?" The reply was swift, slicing. "We checked the medical roster, no one by that name. Obama? Clinton?" She burned every contact, reaching out to top aides in both camps. Same cold truth. "We can't spill details on private docs, but we can tell you it's not Paolo." The revelations crashed over her like an icy wave, chilling her to the core. If these giants didn't even know his name. The whole Pope-officiated wedding bit was absurd, a bare-faced lie that stung deep. But Benita didn't crumble. She pulled herself together, her mind racing. Why the hell was Paolo spinning this web? A sham wedding? A money grab? Something darker lurking beneath? Even with her seasoned screenwriter's eye, she couldn't pin down his script. One thing burned clear, though. She'd dig until the truth bled out. So she flipped the game, slipped into the role of the gentle, understanding fiancé. All soft edges and grace. She called him voice steady. "We can't put the Pope in that spot, Paolo, and you're neck deep in this hospital mess. Let's hit pause on the wedding, okay?" Paolo didn't even pause. His agreement came fast, almost too eager, like he'd been itching for an hour. "Oh, fantastic. Perfect," he chirped. "God, honey, you've read my mind. This wedding prep's been a beast. Let's take a break. Oh, and you'll handle the postponement announcements, right? Catch you later. Bye." His breezy tones sliced through Benita like 1,000 jagged arrows, each word a fresh stein to her chest. She wasn't just stuck drafting emails, explaining the delay, soothing ruffled guests. She had to scramble to refund those who had prepaid for the extravaganza, and every cent funneled straight into Paolo's account. She'd pinned her hopes on a prince. Instead, she'd tangled with a blood-sucking toad. She couldn't stomach it. Benita hired a private eye to peel back Paolo's mask, and the truth hit her like a freight train. He'd never divorced his Italian wife. More than that, they had 3 kids living a postcard-perfect life. The ideal family to anyone peering in. The deeper she dug, the uglier it got. Those Swiss, Russian, and French properties he bragged about. Each had a different woman running the show. Every so often, he'd drop by, lounging like some emperor, drifting through his palaces. Those global missions, urgent surgeries, last-minute meetings, mostly smoke, excuses to flit between his lovers. His job's constant phone blackouts. A perfect cloak for juggling that tangled web. The emotional and financial wreckage he'd left in her life stung bad enough. But what gnawed at Benita most was her daughter. The girl had already weathered her dad's absence. Torn between lives in the US and Europe, she'd finally let Paolo in, warm to him as a stepdad, buzzing for a fresh start, only to have that fragile hope smashed by his betrayal. A dream turned nightmare in an instant. Fury flared hot in Benita's gut. This time, she'd flip the script, use her documentary chops to stage a raw, real-time unmasking. Paolo would star as the villain in her exposé, stripped bare for all to see. She kept her cool, masking every crack, playing the heartbroken fiancé needing a retreat to her grandparents to lick her wounds. But behind the facade, she booked a flight straight to Italy, flanked by her sister and a close friend, there to prop her up and double as her covert film crew. First stop, Florence's main cathedral. Benita slipped into the gown she'd saved for her vows. A blazing red number, once a hue of joy, now a banner of vengeance, and snapped a photo, a keepsake laced with bitter resolve. Next, they headed for Barcelona. The PI had pinned Paolo there with one of his side pieces. To dodge recognition, Benita's squad went incognito. She even rocked a wig. The plan was locked. When Paolo stepped out, she'd pounce, confronting him mid-street, neighbors gawking, nowhere left to hide his lies. She hunkered down in the car, waiting hours, tension coiling tight. Then there he was, Paolo strolling out. But the sight stopped her cold. One hand tugged a dog's leash. The other clasped a toddler, maybe 2 or 3 years old. Beside him, a woman, beaming, the three of them, a picture of cozy bliss. Seeing that scene, Benita's rage fizzled out in a heartbeat. She couldn't do it, not in front of a kid. No matter how vile Paolo was, shattering that toddler's world with a hate-fueled showdown wasn't in her. But she hadn't come this far for nothing. Her sister and best friend stepped up, ringing the bell with a fake smile and a wedding gift excuse to lure him out. The second he appeared, their voices turned steel. "We know exactly what you are, Paolo. From now on, watch your back, and don't ever show your face near Benita or her family again." Back home, Benita's first move was purge or pawn every trace of that traitor. The pigeon egg diamond ring? Gone. The antique piano? Out the door. Then came the gut punch from the jeweler. That ring was a fake, barely worth one new. A far cry from the $100,000 Paolo had boasted. The piano? A laughable twist. Played itself. All those nights, he'd just pantomimed the keys. A chilling thought seized her. If he faked that, what about his surgeries? Benita's mind flashed to Hannah, the little girl who didn't make it. Could Paolo's hands have sealed her fate? She fired up her laptop, diving into every trachea transplant he'd bragged about. Pattern emerged. All his ops hit third-world spots. Syria, Turkey, Africa, Ukraine. Back then, the press sang his praises. Miracle surgeries, a genius at work. But not one followed up on the patients. Benita wasn't stopping there. She hit up embassies, tracing every case she could. The numbers chilled her. Of 9 verified patients, 8 were dead within a year, complications piling up like a curse. The lone survivor? He'd ripped out the plastic trachea after 6 months, clinging to life by sheer will. Hellbent on truth, Benita and her film crew jetted to Turkey, tracking down a patient's family. The woman had a wrecked windpipe from a crash. Paolo's plastic fix was her shot. But soon after, a brutal lung infection took hold. For 6 months, she battled. Every 2 hours, a machine sucking pus and phlegm from her airway, a relentless torture like waterboarding. When she died, she was skin and bones, leaving behind a 3-year-old daughter. The deeper they dug, the uglier it got. Paolo's transplant tech? Banned in many countries for years. Unsafe, untested. That plastic trachea? Never approved by any medical body, not even proven on animals. For over 2 decades, he'd preyed on desperate patients in poor nations, turning them into guinea pigs for his twisted experiments. If that final surgery hadn't hit the US, if Benita hadn't sniffed out the rot, how many more would have been his lab rats? The Illinois Medical Board teamed up with Benita to dig deeper into Paulo's shadowy secrets, and what they found hit like a thunderclap. His degrees, his resume, all fake. He claimed stints at Hanover in Germany and Barcelona in Spain. But the timelines overlapped suspiciously. Then there's the kicker. He swore he was interning in California at the exact same time. Maybe his world-class genius glow blinded everyone. Nobody bothered to double-check, letting him strut through a fabricated past like it was gospel. Time to rip off the mask. Armed with hard proof, Benita joined forces with European filmmakers to craft Bad Surgeon. Love Under the Knife, a title that cuts deep. Ne fofo de bats longs. Tessenel Juis Louiseo. It hit screens via BBC and others, dubbed into languages worldwide. Vanity Fair dropped a hot button the public craves. A silver-tongued playboy juggling lovers. A conman bold enough to scam his way to the Pope's doorstep. A predator experimenting on the poor, faking credentials to profit off pain. It fed the hunger for wild tales while wrapping it in a slick scholarly probe. And the kicker, that fake piano scene? It left viewers slack-jawed, reeling at his shameless gall. Words spread like wildfire online, turning Paulo into a global punchline. The scandal blew up too big to ignore. Sweden's Karolinska Institute gave him the boot. Urban Lendahl, a Nobel nomination bigwig who'd backed him, stepped down in disgrace. By 20, Paulo faced charges for wrecking 3 patients, fatal botches that ended lives. He dodged jail with a suspended sentence. Both prosecutors and Paulo fought that call, landing him a fresh verdict in 23. 2 years, 6 months behind bars. The judge didn't mince words. Paulo knew the trachea transplants could kill. He rolled the dice anyway. 3 Karolinska researchers got tagged for misconduct tied to his work, too. Paulo? He stuck to his story, claiming he only meant to help. At a post-sentencing presser, he pointed fingers at Karolinska's medics and anyone but himself. He's appealed to Sweden's Supreme Court. While that drags on, he's still walking free. Benita? She bounced back fierce from the heartbreak, stitching her footage into a gut-punch Amazon series. He lied about everything. It stormed the charts, snagged another Emmy nod, and rocketed her career skyward. She didn't stop. Season 2's in the works, hellbent on exposing two-faced cheats who prey on trust under a saintly mask. This saga hands us 2 lessons sharp as a blade. First, a creep in private's likely rotten at work, too. Second, never cross a screenwriter with a camera and a score to settle. That's today's tale wrapped up. Story 2. Near the number 1 People's Hospital in Yulin, nestled in Guangxi Province, China, a cluster of self-built homes stands shoulder to shoulder. Though weathered and surrounded by a less than ideal environment, the area buzzes with life, its proximity to the hospital drawing a steady crowd of residents. On March 20th to 20th, in a modest boarding house less than 200 meters from the hospital, a nurse living on the 2nd floor noticed something odd. Her room's drainage pipe had suddenly clogged. Sensing trouble, she called her boyfriend, a police officer, to investigate. Together, they alerted the landlord to tackle the issue. When they pried open the waste pipe, a grisly sight stopped them cold. A mass of shredded flesh jammed inside. The bizarre discovery left everyone reeling. Who would flush such a quantity of meat down a drain? This was no ordinary mishap. The landlord wasted no time contacting the police. When authorities arrived and probed deeper, they extracted a staggering 2,068 fragments of flesh from the pipe. But the real horror hit with the forensic report. These weren't animal remains, they were human tissue. A chilling hush fell over the complex. Officers swiftly canvassed suspicious rooms. On the 3rd floor, they uncovered a rice cooker stuffed with human flesh in one corner, a black plastic bag holding more body parts. Who was the victim? Why had they met such a ruthless end? And what about the tenant on the third floor? Could they be the killer? You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. That same afternoon, March 26, 20, as the tenant from the third floor room headed home from work, police apprehended her on the spot. When they saw the suspect, disbelief rippled through the scene. A petite young woman with a slender frame, her ponytail swinging, and her gentle face suggesting innocence. She looked more like a harmless schoolgirl than a hardened criminal. Yet beneath that fragile exterior lurked a ghastly truth. What she'd done was unthinkable. The suspect was Li Fengping, 25, a nurse at Yulin's No. 1 People's Hospital. At the station, she confessed with eerie calm. She'd murdered Luo Peng, the hospital's deputy chief of spinal surgery, then disposed of him by dissolving his body and flushing it down the drain. Just days earlier, police had fielded a call from Luo Peng's wife, reporting her husband missing for 2 days. What tied Li Fengping to Luo Peng? Why had it ended in such a macabre crime? What drove this savage act? The answers began trickling out as the investigation unfolded. In 2017, Li Fengping graduated from Guangxi Medical University with strong marks, earning job offers from 3 hospitals through the school's recruitment program. One was in Nanning, the provincial capital, brimming with career prospects. Another in Liuzhou dangled the highest salary. The third, Yulin's No. 1 People's Hospital, offered neither top pay nor advancement, but held a crucial edge: proximity to home. A mere 2-hour taxi ride to Bobby County, where her gravely ill mother lived, meant she could rush back to care for her if needed. After weighing it with her father, Li Fengping chose Yulin, sacrificing higher wages and broader horizons to stay close to family. But life didn't unfold as she'd hoped. Aside from the China New Year, Li Fengping rarely made it home. She rented a cramped 30-square-meter room in an alley behind the hospital. Though old, tight, and run down, it cost just 350 yuan a month, about 50, letting her stretch her meager budget. When she started at the hospital, she entered a mandatory 3-year rotation program for young doctors and nurses, a grueling initiation before settling into a fixed department. Every few months, she'd switch wards, each shift a reset, back to square one as a novice nurse doing grunt work. Her pay was paltry, hovering between 2,000 and 3,000 yuan monthly, roughly 280 to 420. After years, it might climb to 7,000 or 8,000 yuan, 980 to 120. But there was no guarantee she wouldn't be uprooted again, starting from scratch. The relentless rotation bred instability, leaving young nurses like her adrift, anxious, bobbing like waterweed in the hospital's currents. In June 2018, Li Fengping landed in the neonatal ward, later moving to spinal surgery. One night shift, chatting with colleagues, she was introduced to an online betting game. At her first trial, she dodged questions about who tipped her off. Even under her lawyer's probing, she clammed up, insisting the colleague had no tie to her crime. Only at the second hearing did a name surface: Lu Maoxia. Lu, the hospital's head nurse, had unwittingly nudged Li Fengping toward gambling. Initially, Li saw it as a side hustle to ease financial strain. Buying a house loomed large. Lu testified the game was straightforward. She'd bet lightly at first, but once lost over 100 yuan, about 14, in a single round. Sensing danger, Lu quit, uninstalled it, and warned Li Fengping to treat it as a lark. Neither foresaw how that casual nudge would shove Li down a merciless path. This online lottery game required no phone registration or ID, just boundless betting. Players picked numbers from 10 Arabic digit groups, 1 to 10. Newbies won early rounds, lulled into thinking it was easy money. But the system was rigged, a trap to reel gamblers into a losing spiral. Li Fengping fell fast into its grip. Her bets started small, hundreds of yuan, then ballooned to tens of thousands. Some days she'd drop hundreds of thousands in one go, up to 14,000. Still, she couldn't stop, clinging to the dream that one big win would turn it all around. Her peak haul hit 100,000 yuan, about $14,000 in a day. What she didn't grasp was the game's iron grip. No one won long term. No player walked away ahead. Within a year, her 2 bank cards funneled 29 million yuan, over $400,000, into the platform. For a nurse barely 3 years on the job, it was a staggering sum. Debt piled up, spiraling beyond her control. Desperation clawed at her. She needed cash. And right then, a chilling plan took root in her mind. Unwilling to fold, Li Fengping hatched a scheme. Borrow money to gamble. Win big, pay it off like raising chickens for eggs. She started borrowing everywhere, spinning tales of her mother's cervical cancer to tap colleagues' sympathy. Her bright, lively demeanor and diligent work ethic had earned their trust. The hospital's sterling reputation only bolstered her credibility. No one doubted her story. At first, Li Fengping borrowed just a few thousand yuan, small sums. Each paycheck, she'd repay a fraction, building trust and coaxing more help from colleagues. But soon, the frequency spiked, the amounts ballooned, and her coworkers' wallets became a revolving fund. No matter how much she raked in, it couldn't fill the gaping financial pit she'd plunged into. In July 20th, Li secured a 300,000 yuan loan, about 42,000 from the Bank of China, through a healthcare worker assistance program in Yulin. Still, it wasn't enough. She kept hitting up colleagues, spinning tales of her mother's illness, a wedding, a house purchase. Older nurses grew wary and shut her down, but younger ones, bonded by friendship, kept lending. Some even used their own IDs to borrow 300,000 yuan each, 42,000 apiece on her behalf. Trusting her, they never pressed for repayment. By the time the truth unraveled, that money remained unpaid. Meanwhile, neck deep in debt, Li never turned to her family. When coworkers' generosity dried up, she tapped online lending platforms. In 6 months, her bank records brimmed with loans from countless sources. She borrowed from any corner she could, heedless of sky-high interest rates, often exceeding the legal cap of 36% annually. The deeper she sank into gambling, the more her psyche split. On one hand, she flung hundreds of thousands of yuan daily into online bets, sometimes more, her pulse steady as stone. On the other, her personal life clung to frugality, holed up in that dilapidated 350 yuan rental, about 50 a month. When eyeing a fridge, she'd agonize, debating the expense, only to order a cheap one off Taobao for a few hundred yuan. Under 50 million squandered on bets, yet hesitating over pocket change. That dissonance was Li Fengping's greatest tragedy. By October 20th, despair swallowed her whole. Debt towered. Options evaporated. She turned to Luo Peng, deputy chief of spinal surgery, for a loan. At 51, he drove a BMW SUV and had a daughter in high school. Word around the hospital pegged him as wealthy. When Li pleaded her case, Luo agreed to lend on one condition. They arranged to meet at an upscale hotel near the hospital. For Li Fengping, it was a fateful day that altered her life's course. Stepping into the room, she froze. Luo Peng stood naked. She turned to bolt, but he barred her escape. Under his coercion, she relented, forced to comply. The next morning, Li pocketed 50,000 yuan, about 7,000, but the cash wasn't the prize. Humiliation seared into her soul. It didn't end there. Despite the rage and resistance boiling inside, she had to submit to Luo Peng repeatedly at that hotel. From October 20th to February 20th, they met 13 times. After each encounter, Luo wired her money. By March 20th, she'd collected 200,000 yuan, roughly 28,000. But alongside the funds came festering resentment and shame. Luo Peng, though, wasn't sated. He began to threaten. Think you can slip away from me? I've got contacts in security and the prosecutor's office. Cross me and I'll make sure you regret it. His intimidation gripped her with terror. A rural girl who had clawed her way through school for this job, she felt cornered. By 20, Li Fengping had slipped into depression. Initially overwhelmed by helplessness, fearing retaliation and harm to her family, she contemplated ending it all. 3 times she tried and 3 times she failed. The first attempt saw her hoard 100 sleeping pills. Already plagued by insomnia, Sleeping just 3 or 4 hours a night, she swallowed 80 in one go. Instead of death, she faced violent nausea, her body rejecting the overdose. The second time, she left the gas on overnight, another flop. For her third bid, she exploited her job, swiping 2 vials of insulin from the hospital and injecting 800 units into herself. Yet even death turned her away. Li Fengping lingered on, trapped in despair and fury. March 20th rolled in, and COVID-19 shuttered hotels. Unable to book rooms for their trysts, Luo Peng ordered Li Fengping to rent an apartment near the hospital, promising to cover the cost. With no choice, she complied. On the night of March 20th, a drunken Luo showed up. Stumbling through the door, he stripped and demanded her attention. But Li, engrossed in her betting game, brushed him off. She dodged with excuses, hadn't eaten dinner, needed a shower, stoking Luo's temper. He erupted, hurling insults, accusing her of cooling off, even threatening her job. After his tirade, he passed out, snoring loudly across the room. Li Fengping sat on the bed's edge, fists clenched. Humiliation replayed in her mind, resentment surging. The weight of it all snapped her restraint. In a rage, she grabbed her phone and searched. What to do if you hate someone? A suggestion popped up to make them disappear. Scrolling further, she landed on, how can the weak defeat the strong? That's when Li Fengping made her choice. Around 1 a.m., she grabbed a computer cable and crept toward the bed. Looping it around Luo's neck, she yanked tight. He jolted awake, thrashing wildly. They tumbled to the floor, locked in a struggle, but she held firm. Minutes later, his body stilled. Trembling, she pressed his carotid artery. No pulse. Instinctively, she tried CPR, but it was futile. Luo Peng was gone. Panic surged, then ebbed. Regaining composure, she unlocked his phone with his fingerprint, transferring 98,000 yuan, about 13 thund, to herself. In a flash, online lenders snatched nearly all of it, leaving just 900 yuan, 120. Desperation reignited. She wouldn't let defeat win. Li snapped photos of Luo's torso, bank card, and ID, plotting to use them for more loans. But the systems demanded live verification, thwarting her. Before dawn, she scoured her phone. How to destroy evidence completely. How to transfer a car or health insurance undetected. The more she schemed to cover her tracks, the clearer it became. She'd hit a dead end. By 8 a.m. on March 21st, post-murder, Li didn't flee or falter. She dressed neatly and clocked into the hospital, as if nothing had happened. At 6 p.m., she returned to the rented flat and began disposing of the victim. Later, she told her lawyer she did it to stall decomposition, buying time to erase traces. The process dragged on for 20 hours, from 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. the next day. She spent over 2,000 yuan, about 280, on tools. What unfolded in that room was a gruesome, ruthless act beyond imagination. During that stretch, she darted back to her old place for clothes, ditched a stained pair of white shoes, and ransacked Luo's car for loan notes she'd signed. She found nothing. They were locked in his office safe. Later, a spinal surgery nurse uncovered those papers. She didn't stop there. To delay suspicion, Li impersonated Luo, texting his wife from his phone. When the wife asked why he hadn't come home, Li replied he was tied up with surgery out of town. That night, as the wife called, Li texted back that he was drunk and dodging the phone. But by the evening of March 20th, unease gnawed at Luo's wife. She phoned the hospital to check his schedule. Nothing lined up. Sensing something off, she alerted police. The ensuing investigation swiftly peeled back the horrific truth behind Luo Peng's mysterious disappearance. Arrested, Li Fengping faced charges of murder and theft. For these crimes, she stared down the death penalty. When news broke that his daughter was entangled in the law, Li Fengping's father collapsed, disbelief shattering him. Trembling, he stammered, "Just 1 year. How could 1 year ruin my daughter like this? What has she become?" Li Fengping was born in 95, raised in a tiny village in Bobai County, Guangxi Province. Her family ranked among the village's poorest. Reaching their remote home meant a bus from Yulin City, a shuttle ride, then a long trek on foot. While most villagers lived in 2- or 3-story homes, the Lee family huddled in a dilapidated single-room shack. As the eldest of 4, Lee bore the weight of responsibility early. Her mother battled uterine fibroids, her frail health barring heavy work. The burden fell on her father, scraping by with odd jobs to keep them afloat. Despite their poverty, her father clung to a belief. Education was their ticket out of hardship. He'd once enrolled in middle school himself, only to drop out when money ran dry. Determined to spare his kids that fate, he vowed they'd study no matter the cost. His sacrifice paid off. None of his 4 children quit school. Beyond Li Fengping, her second sister passed into a Guangxi teacher's college, while her third sister and youngest brother attended the county's top high school. Her father once beamed with pride over his eldest. She's got her mother's blood. Diligent, tough from the start, she studied while working part-time. When her mom fell ill, she cared for her siblings, yet still topped her class. With such grades, Li Fengping could have aimed for the county's best high school, but their finances dictated otherwise. Her father chose a technical college instead, 5 years to a job versus 7 for university. She didn't argue, picking nursing partly from years tending her mother. She became the family's shining star, one of the village's few to study in Nanning, the provincial capital. As a low-income student, she snagged a 6,000 yuan scholarship, about 8.40 yuan per term from the Yulu Fund. Even in college, Li excelled, leading the publicity arm of the school psychology association. Her father dreamed she'd escape poverty with her skills, land a steady job, maybe settle in a big city. He told her not to send money home, to avoid returning to the countryside for work or marriage. If all went well, he pictured her buying a house in Yulin within years, perhaps finding a city boyfriend to build a new life. But those hopes crumbled. Reality painted a harsher truth. Li Fengping was no longer the girl her father knew. As a student, she scrimped on 200 yuan bus fares, about 28, visiting home only during winter and summer breaks. After starting work, though the trip was just over an hour and under 14, she seldom returned. A chasm grew between her and her family. In 1 year, her life veered into an unthinkable abyss. On August 20th, the Guangxi Higher People's Court opened the initial trial for Li Fengping's chilling case. Throughout, she recounted her crimes with a steady voice, devoid of panic or remorse. Prosecutors framed it as a tangled mess of an illicit affair and financial woes. Li pushed back, insisting her tie to the victim stemmed not from affection or choice, but coercion and control. Killing him, she claimed, was her only escape from unbearable shame. Yet, the evidence from the investigation shredded Li Fengping's defense. All phone chats with the victim had been erased, irretrievable. But the record was clear. In the months before the murder, she'd willingly met Luo Peng at hotels, engaging with him intimately. The night prior, she'd let him into her rented flat. The court's conclusion was damning. Financial friction with Luo ignited the clash. After a heated dispute, she killed him and tried to dispose of the evidence. Her crime, marked by extreme brutality, wrought severe consequences, casting a dark shadow over society. For this, the law demanded its sternest penalty. On December 22nd, the Guangxi Higher People's Court convened an appellate hearing via video, gripping public attention as Li Fengping's fate hung in the balance. Her appeal crumbled. The initial death sentence stood firm, forwarded to the Supreme People's Court for final approval. Li Fengping's case transcends mere crime. It mirrors a troubling undercurrent in modern life. From a poor girl brimming with ambition, she plummeted into gambling's abyss. A 2019 Swedish Public Security Bureau report tallied 45,000 online gambling addicts. Only 64 were women, but over the past decade that figure has spiked. In the UK, the last 5 years saw women's gambling debts soar at twice the rate of men's. Research pins a key culprit, the rise of online lotteries. Women, often crushed by societal pressure, find little support and struggle to break free from temptation's pull. Psychologically vulnerable, they're prime targets for these snares. Li Fengping, a young nurse with promise, a steady job, and an innocent facade, seemed an unlikely fall. Yet, temptations like gambling and lotteries wield countless lures to drag even the ordinary down. Once hooked, escape is a faint hope. Take this to heart. Never trust online luck traps. Stay sharp. Steer clear. Shut them out. They're not just games of chance. They're a spiritual narcotic. Fall in and your entire life risks burial. On February 10, 2006, Santam was walking home from the Panchayat office after completing paperwork for her newborn twins. But the moment she stepped through her door, she was met with a horrifying sight that would shatter her life forever. Inside her own home, her daughter, Ranjani, and her 2 young granddaughters had been brutally murdered. Who could harbor such hatred toward innocent children and Ranjani to commit an act so savage and merciless? In this video, we'll dive into the chilling triple murder case in Kerala and the first case in India to harness the power of artificial intelligence to crack it wide open. Ranjani was a 21-year-old woman living in Akan, a small town in Kollam district, Kerala. She'd spent her childhood there, leading a life that was simple, unremarkable, and, by all accounts, happy. In the same town lived a young man named Divil Kumar, her next-door neighbor. Divil was a soldier, and over time, a bond sparked between them, blossoming into friendship. That friendship deepened with each passing day until, inevitably, it turned into love. When Ranjani fell for Divil, she was just 20 years old. And you know how it feels, that first rush of love, intoxicating and exhilarating beyond words. It was no different for this young woman in her 20s. Ranjani threw herself headlong into her feelings for him. Some might even say she became obsessed with the love they shared. Their connection grew so intense that they crossed physical boundaries, becoming as close as 2 people could be. But here's the catch. Ranjani and Divil weren't married. Still, their relationship had reached a profound level. They felt whole in each other's presence, and Ranjani was convinced nothing could tear them apart. Up to this point, her life and their love seemed picture-perfect. But everything changed when Ranjani discovered she was pregnant. When she realized she was going to be a mother, joy flooded her heart. She believed this would mark a new chapter for her and Divil, binding them even closer together. But the moment she shared the news with him, her dreams crumbled into dust. Divil's reaction was the opposite of what she'd hoped. He flatly told her the child couldn't be born, that she had to get rid of it. Ranjani refused his demand outright. Instead, she pushed back, insisting she wouldn't abort the baby, and that he had to accept it because it was his child too. Ranjani stood firm, fiercely protective of the life growing inside her, and Divil grew increasingly agitated by her resolve. Desperate to escape the pressure and the responsibility, he fled back to his army training camp in Pathankot, Punjab. He abandoned Ranjani, leaving her alone in the most unimaginable circumstances. But even after Divil retreated to Pathankot, Ranjani didn't waver. She made up her mind. She wouldn't give up her baby. She wouldn't abandon her own flesh and blood. Oh, bold, defiant choice. Consider this, she was young, deserted by the man she thought loved her most, and living in India, where such a stance took extraordinary courage. As you might already know, life for an unwed pregnant woman in Indian society is a relentless struggle. Every day is a battle for survival. To the world around them, they're branded as women without virtue, mocked, judged, their morality and upbringing endlessly questioned. You've likely seen this play out in movies or caught glimpses of it in news reports. The merciless way society turns on an unmarried woman, especially when she's carrying a child and the father is nowhere to be found. But Ranjani made a choice. She would fight for her baby's rights. With the help of the Kerala State Women's Commission, she sent a notice demanding Divil take a DNA test whenever he returned from his army camp in Pathankot. That DNA notice she sent would prove to be a pivotal piece in this case. As the days ticked by, Ranjani's due date drew closer. She decided to head to a hospital in Trivandrum with her mother, Santama. It was there, in that hospital, that she crossed paths with a man named Anil. He told her he was from Column 2, her hometown, the very place she belonged. Hearing this put Ranjani and her mother at ease. They felt a connection. Anil had a warmth about him, a charm that made them comfortable. He'd help Ranjani with little things, lend Santama a hand with small tasks. He was kind, generous, a genuinely good guy. That kindness only strengthened their bond. Add to that the fact that he hailed from their hometown, and it made them trust him even more. Around this time, word came that Ranjani might need a C-section, a procedure that could involve heavy blood loss. Anil stepped up, offering to donate blood if she needed it. Turns out they shared the same blood type. To Ranjani and her mother, this was a lifeline, a stroke of luck in a desperate moment. Felt like a gift from above. You've probably seen this in your own life. When you're at a low point, craving support, someone steps in. Someone you can pour your heart out to. When they earn your trust, you let it all spill out. It's human nature, right? I hope you get what I mean. That's exactly what happened with Ranjani. She opened up to Anil about everything. Deville, how he'd abandoned her, how deeply she'd loved him. On February 10th, 2006, Santama was on her way home from the Panchayat office after finalizing paperwork for her newborn twin granddaughters. But the second she walked through the door, she was confronted by a nightmare that would alter her life forever. Inside her own home, her daughter, Ranjani, and her two little granddaughters lay brutally slain. Who could possibly hold such a grudge against innocent children and Ranjani to strike with such ruthless savagery? In today's video, we'll dig deeper into the triple murder in Kerala and India's first case solved using AI. Back at the hospital, Ranjani gave birth to twin daughters. Afterward, Anil, also known as Rajesh, helped her and Santama find a new rental house. His reasoning: it would shield Ranjani from family and neighbors who wouldn't stop prying about the babies. Ranjani and her mother saw the logic in this. They knew how brutal life out there could be. She'd become a mother out of wedlock. So, moving to a place free of old relatives, former tenants, or nosy neighbors felt like a smart move. Trusting Anil or Rajesh, they left the hospital and headed straight to the apartment he'd arranged. On February 10th, 2006, with Ranjani and Santama's trust fully in his grasp, Rajesh decided it was time to execute a plan he'd hatched with his friend Deville. After Santama stepped out, Deville and Rajesh slipped into the house. In one swift, cold-blooded motion, they drew a blade across Ranjani's throat, and those of her twin daughters, snuffing out their lives with chilling ease. After the slaughter, the pair fled the scene in a hurry. Moments later, Santama returned from the Panchayat office. What she saw defied belief. To her, everything was over. The children she'd fought so hard for, despite Deville's rejection, despite everything, now lay lifeless before her. Years of struggle rendered meaningless in an instant. Santama collapsed, broken beyond repair. Somehow, she pulled herself together long enough to stumble to the nearest police station and report the horror. The police sprang into action, rushing to the crime scene to investigate. During their sweep, they spotted a car nearby. A check of the license plate revealed it belonged to Rajesh. The police wasted no time contacting the Pathankot military base, but by then, both men had vanished. At first, it seemed like an open and shut case. The suspects' names were right there, but as the investigation deepened, tracking Rajesh and Deville grew harder. The police threw everything into the hunt, but the pair slipped through their fingers. Eventually, with no leads left to chase, the case was shelved. Over time, people stopped talking about it, and the tragic triple murder faded into obscurity. But imagine what that did to a mother. Her daughter and tiny granddaughters denied justice. Even the police had to admit defeat back then, leaving the case an unsolved riddle. For 19 years, the Kerala triple murder gathered dust. Then, out of nowhere, it would jolt back to life in a way no one saw coming. You've probably heard the saying, in God's house, justice may be late, but it's never dark. At police stations everywhere, countless cases sit dormant as cold files, occasionally dusted off by officers. Time and again, we've seen it in other cases. Truths buried by years eventually claw their way to the surface. The same happened here. Kerala's current ADGP, Manoj Abraham, was reviewing old cases when he stumbled across a faded photo from 2006. It showed both culprits, Daival and Rajesh. He handed it to his technical intelligence team, who used artificial intelligence to digitally enhance the images, predicting what the two might look like today. Essentially, they took young Daival and Rajesh from those old snapshots and aged them into modern versions. Then they scanned those images across social media. You've seen this kind of tech before, Snapchat filters that make you look older or younger. This was similar but far more advanced because it was for a real investigation. The Kerala police tested multiple variations, cross-referencing them online. Matches started trickling in 10%, 20%. Before long, they hit a 90% match on a Facebook post from Pondicherry. The photo, uploaded by a woman from her wedding, featured a man named Praveen Kumar. But when they zoomed in, they saw Rajesh staring back. The Kerala police immediately tipped off the CBI, who looped in Pondicherry authorities. Pondicherry police swooped in and arrested Praveen Kumar, aka Rajesh. Daival was nabbed shortly after. During interrogation, it unraveled. For 19 years, they'd lived under new identities, working as interior designers in Pondicherry, hiding in plain sight. As mentioned earlier, Rajesh had reinvented himself as Praveen Kumar, while Daival had taken on the name Vishnu. Beyond that, both had married school teachers and built new lives. Pause for a moment and consider this. These two men committed a heinous murder, snatching the lives of tiny children just 17 days old, then walked away and reset their existence as if nothing had happened. To them, it was as though the killings never took place. They simply moved on, started families, had children of their own, built marriages. But thankfully, with the aid of AI and the unwavering resolve of the police, justice finally caught up. A case that had nearly faded into oblivion was cracked open after 19 long years, and the scales of justice were finally balanced. There's one more layer to this story worth digging into. Does AI truly serve us as humans? Most of you probably clicked on this video because of the AI, and this marks the first time Indian police harnessed artificial intelligence to solve a case. Story 4. For reasons lost to time, the pursuit of studying abroad has shifted in the minds of many. From the noble ideal of excel in school to study overseas and broaden your knowledge to a more pragmatic, since I can't get into a good local school, I might as well study abroad for the prestige. As waves of international students flood foreign shores, a troubling rise in serious crimes tied to this exodus has followed suit. The case we're delving into today once sent shockwaves through the Chinese student community in Canada, its echoes still reverberating in international recruitment circles. Even years later, revisiting this chilling saga stirs a profound sense of sorrow and unease. As usual, before we begin unraveling this mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. On May 18, 2001, the Toronto Police Service received a distressing call. A woman reported that her husband had vanished 3 days earlier, only for an anonymous ransom note to appear in their home mailbox, demanding 500,000 Canadian dollars. The missing man was Gu Tingwu, a 48-year-old from Taiwan, who had immigrated to Canada with his family years before. He served as the principal of the Great Lakes College of Toronto, a respected educational institution. Upon receiving the report, police immediately turned their attention to Mrs. Gu, the caller. After all, it raised eyebrows that a husband could go missing for 3 days. Yet, his wife only alerted authorities after a kidnapper's letter arrived. When questioned, Mrs. Gu remained remarkably composed. She explained that her marriage to Principal Gu had long been in name only. In their sprawling villa, they lived separate lives, eating apart, sleeping in different rooms, held together merely by his social standing and reputation. Divorce had been avoided for appearance's sake. As a result, days without contact or conversation were routine. They were more like distant roommates than spouses. Mrs. Gu's claim that Principal Gu had been missing for 3 days checked out. His secretary confirmed he hadn't shown up at school since leaving work on May 15th. Police then discovered his insulin, a daily necessity for him, in his bedroom at home. Judging by the remaining amount, it hadn't been touched since that date. On May 15th, Mrs. Gu and her son had attended a friend's dinner party together, both backed by airtight alibis. Friends and acquaintances described Principal Gu as mild-mannered and approachable, a man who rarely, if ever, made enemies in his professional or personal life, making revenge an unlikely motive. A search of his office revealed that, on the day he vanished, he'd collected tuition fees from students, 5,000 Canadian dollars in cash. That money was missing from his office safe and nowhere to be found at home. Could it be that carrying this cash made him a target, leading to his abduction along with the funds, followed by a ransom demand? Yet here's the twist. After demanding 500,000 Canadian dollars from Mrs. Gu, the kidnappers vanished into thin air, leaving no instructions for the handover. This baffled investigators. What kind of kidnapper demands a ransom but fails to specify how to deliver it? Had they not even planned that far ahead? With no immediate leads, the police opted for a waiting game, hoping the kidnappers would reveal their next move. A week dragged on until May 26th, when Mrs. Gu received a second ransom letter. This time, it instructed her to deliver the money to a public phone booth near Pacific Mall's Plaza in Markham, Toronto. The kidnappers' counter-surveillance instincts were razor-sharp. Both letters bore no fingerprints, their contents printed by computer, thwarting any handwriting analysis. Even the drop-off point was a bustling downtown Toronto post office, a needle in a haystack choice for tracing. Yet, despite their caution, the police spotted a slip-up in the second letter, a subtle clue that cracked open the kidnapper's profile. When writing Principal Gu's name, they used GU, opinion spelling exclusive to mainland China. In contrast, Chinese communities in Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, or Southeast Asia typically render Gu as Ku, a distinction that pointed straight to the culprit's origins. At the same time, another investigative threat emerged. Principal Gu's car had been parked in the driveway of the family's villa after his disappearance, showing no signs of a struggle or suspicious fingerprints. It's likely he was snatched in the fleeting 20 seconds between exiting his vehicle and reaching the front gate. Adding to the puzzle, the ransom drop-off site was a shopping hub frequented almost exclusively by the Chinese community. At nearly 5 feet 11 inches and over 200 pounds, Gu was a formidable figure, not someone an average person could subdue without a fight. Piecing these clues together, the police sketched a suspect profile, a young man from mainland China, aged 18 to 30, physically robust, possibly part of a group. Likely a recent immigrant or international student, he or they knew Gu intimately, not just his home address, but his precise work schedule, down to when he clocked in and out. The pool of suspects fitting this description wasn't vast, somewhere between 300 and 400 individuals. But hadn't everyone said Principal Gu was a man without enemies? So why did the suspect list balloon rather than shrink? The answer lies in the Great Lakes College of Toronto, the school he helmed, which specialized in overseas recruitment. With nearly 500 students, almost all were Chinese-speaking international students, 95% hailing from mainland China. The remaining 5% included a handful of high schoolers from Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and Singapore on short-term programs, alongside just 2 Japanese students, as rare as pandas in that mix. The faculty numbered over 10, with at least 3 or 4 ethnic Chinese teachers, the rest hailing from the Philippines, Ecuador, and Italy. All held Canadian certified degrees and met teaching standards, but those familiar with Canada's education hiring practices would know these foreign instructors commanded far lower salaries than seasoned local educators. A cadre of foreign teachers, led by a Taiwanese principal, schooling hundreds of Chinese students in Canada. It's a setup that might ring alarm bells. Many would hear this and think, chicken school, a crude nickname that lacks polish. In English, there's a more refined term, diploma mill, a label for institutions where degrees are essentially bought. Credentials worthless to local employers, designed to prey on naive international students. Some even mimic the names of legitimate universities to blur the lines. Take Queen's University, a storied Canadian institution. Yet, Queen's International College is a diploma mill. Or the University of Toronto, shadowed by its knockoff Toronto College, trying to pass as the real deal. Most telling is Centennial College in Toronto, a powerhouse public college with over 160 programs and a robust faculty. But it too has a counterfeit cousin, Toronto Polytechnic Institute. Because the latter's name sounds more official, countless students and parents, misled by shady study abroad agencies, mistake Centennial for the fraud, a case where the imposter outshines the genuine article. As for the Great Lakes College of Toronto, it's not a diploma mill churning out fake degrees. Legally registered with Ontario's Ministry of Education, it operates as a private high school, issuing provincially recognized diplomas, a credential that, on paper, carries a veneer of legitimacy. Yet a visit to its website reveals a stark divide. A Chinese version tailored for prospective students from China, and a local English version, searchable via the ministry's database. These two portals don't just differ in tone and description. They paint entirely different pictures with photos that scream, bait and switch. Take the teaching building. The Chinese site showcases one image for parents, while the English version displays another. Or consider the dorms. On the Chinese page, they boast private rooms for each student, complete with full furnishings, bedding, and round-the-clock wardens ensuring total care. But shift the lens and reality emerges. That same setup crams up to 3 students into a tight space, far from the one-per-room luxury promised. A former student reflected that even these conditions were deemed VIP tier back then. Most lived in standard 6 or 8-person rooms, basic bunk beds and cramped, poorly ventilated quarters. Compared to many domestic universities in China, or even mid-tier city high schools, the setup lagged far behind. The cafeteria, hyped as a year-round buffet blending Chinese and Western cuisine for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, defied description in both quantity and quality. A rude awakening for kids accustomed to parental pampering who'd expected a developed world experience only to land in third-world living. If it were just shoddy facilities, that might be shrugged off. But for many students, the real shock was the school's teaching promises. Grand claims that crumbled under scrutiny. One alumnus recalled that, unlike today's wave of students fleeing poor exam results, their cohort included top performers from China's elite high schools, solid achievers, if not outright prodigies. Many met Principal Gu's recruitment team in their final year, dazzled by brochures in Chinese that painted the school as a heavenly gateway. The catch? Those materials dodged the fact it was merely a high school, instead emphasizing college status. Through clever translational ambiguity, they misled students and parents into believing it was a Canadian public college. A fast track to permanent residency via a 3 to 4 year program, a 2-year diploma, and a 3-year work visa. Compared to the traditional route, 1 year of language prep, 4 years of university, and years of work experience totaling 6 to 7 years, it seemed a bargain in time and money. Lured by this relentless marketing blitz, some even ditched domestic university offers to step through Principal Gu's doors. In truth, the school only issued Canadian high school diplomas. A simple mismatch between hype and reality might have been forgivable, but the faculty, mostly non-native English speakers, taught students who conversed almost entirely in Chinese. With no immersive language environment, it was like repeating a year of high school while their English stagnated. A far cry from the transformative education they'd been sold. You might wonder, if they were so set on cashing in on international students, why not pivot to an English language school? Train them in speaking, prep them for TOEFL or IELTS, targeted, effective, and surely more useful, right? The answer's simple. Language courses are short-term, months for the quick, a year plus for the slow, before students pass exams and move on to university. High school's a different beast. Students need at least 30 credits, 18 mandatory courses, 112 electives, plus 40 hours of community service, and a provincial literacy test to graduate. For those at the Great Lakes College of Toronto, even the fastest track to university took a grueling year and a half, locking them in longer and deeper than any language program ever could. So why did this school drag out the process like this? A close source revealed that annual tuition at the Great Lakes College of Toronto topped 20,000 Canadian dollars, a steep figure even among Toronto's elite private high schools. On top of that, international students forked over an additional 5,000 Canadian dollars in application fees just to secure a spot. But the costs didn't end there. Unlike other institutions, The school tacked on room and board charges, roughly 500 Canadian dollars monthly for lodging and 300 to 400 Canadian dollars for meals. That's nearly 1,000 Canadian dollars extra each month. Back around 2000, when Toronto's cost of living paled compared to today, this sum could have comfortably sustained a family of 4. Yet at the Great Lakes College, students scraped by, underfed and underheated despite the hefty price tag. Unsurprisingly, many felt duped and sought transfers. That's when the school unleashed its trump card. Your study visas are only valid here. Switch schools and you'll become illegal residents facing deportation at any moment. This threat loomed like a guillotine over the heads of vulnerable teens and their far-off parents. In reality, a professional immigration lawyer later debunked this as pure intimidation. Study visas weren't tied to a single school. Transferring wouldn't void them, let alone trigger deportation. The Great Lakes College's claims were a calculated scare tactic aimed at naive newcomers and their families overseas. As enrollment swelled, Principal Gu snapped up adjacent houses near the campus, renting each for 1,000 Canadian dollars monthly and converting them into dorms. Tiny rooms housed 3 students apiece, 3 units sharing a single bathroom. A 3-story building could cram in 20 to 30 bodies. Do the math. Over 20 students paying 500 Canadian dollars each for rent nets, 10,000 Canadian dollars monthly, while the buildings costs a mere 1,000 Canadian dollars. The profit margin practically begged to be noticed. Around 2000, the Great Lakes College of Toronto faced 2 full-blown student strikes over cafeteria woes, living conditions, and rampant overcharging. Fired-up teens hauled desks and chairs into the open, squaring off with school security. Only police intervention quelled the chaos. After the second uprising, the administration caved on some fronts, dropping the mandatory boarding rule, for instance. Students could now live off campus, provided they didn't skip class or leave early. The catch? Many had prepaid a year's worth of room and board fees to secure their visas. Non-refundable, as the contract starkly warned. Bailing midterm meant swallowing a hefty loss, while parents back home would likely see it as reckless squandering, leaving kids caught between a rock and a hard place. Tensions between students and staff simmered on, never boiling over into outright war, but festering beneath the surface. The brunt of their resentment zeroed in on Principal Gu, branded a greedy con artist, a polished educator on the outside, a cunning schemer within. This realization floored the police. By that logic, couldn't every one of the school's hundreds of students be a suspect? Determined to snare the culprits, they followed the kidnappers' latest demand, preparing 500,000 Canadian dollars in ransom money and blanketing the drop-off site with undercover officers, poised for an ambush. But on delivery day, as plainclothes cops stashed a bulging cash bag in the phone booth per instructions, they waited in vain. From noon until the mall shuttered at night, no one approached. Had the kidnappers sniffed out the trap and backed off? A meticulous sweep of the booth uncovered a note tucked into a phone book page. It mocked the police's obvious setup, sneering that they'd never fall for it. Then came the twist. The ransom dropped to 100,000 Canadian dollars, with a new drop-off location promised later. A chilling hint that this game was far from over. It's fair to say the kidnappers fancied themselves clever, outsmarting the police by anticipating their moves. But they didn't count on the police anticipating their anticipation. Days before the planned exchange, authorities had discreetly installed cameras around the phone booth, a precaution against reconnaissance. Sure enough, footage review paid off. The day before the drop, 2 young Asian men appeared. One feigned searching for a number, slyly slipping a note from his pocket into the booth, while the other kept a wary eye on their surroundings. Screenshots from multiple angles, zoomed and enhanced, yielded clear facial images. The police summoned school staff and teachers for identification. After meticulous cross-checks, they pinpointed Su Jiang, 19, and Wang Feng, 20, both students at the Great Lakes College of Toronto. Not just classmates, but dorm roommates. Both had openly griped about the school and Principal Gu on various occasions. Their ire sparked by a petty grievance, Gu's refusal to refund a $50 Canadian housing deposit. Rumors swirled that Wang Feng had served 2 years in China's armed forces before emigrating, lending him the combat skills and a knack for evasion, despite his average build. Bank records sealed their fate. The day after Gu vanished, Su and Wang each deposited $2,500 Canadian dollars in cash, totaling the exact $5,000 Canadian dollars Gu carried when abducted. To locate him, police tailed the pair around the clock. Yet beyond attending classes, they stuck to their dorm or ran mundane errands, blending seamlessly with other students. No trace of Gu in sight. After 3 days of surveillance, the police mobilized a SWAT team at dawn on May 19th, aiming to apprehend them and rescue the hostage. A witnessing student recounted the raid. Over a dozen heavily armed officers, helmets on, clad in bulletproof vests, stormed the house from all sides, methodically closing in on the suspect's third-floor room. With a battering ram, they smashed through the door in a pulse-pounding blitz, straight out of a Hollywood thriller. But the anticipated shootout never came. Wang Feng and Su Jiang, groggy from sleep, were subdued and cuffed before grasping what hit them. Their desk was littered with newspaper clippings on Gu's kidnapping, evidence they tracked the case obsessively. Yet the police's crumbled. No sign of Principal Gu. Under interrogation, the duo led authorities to a dense forest on Mississauga's outskirts, where Gu's severely decomposed body lay buried. Per their confession, they ambushed Gu from behind at his doorstep, knocking him out and stuffing him into his car's trunk. The plan? Lock him in a Four Seasons hotel room, then extort the Gu family. But en route, they popped the trunk to find him lifeless, curled up, and breathless. Their ransom scheme imploded with a dead hostage, sparking panic. Abandoning the hotel, they drove aimlessly. Fearing summer heat would hasten decay and draw attention, they scouted a remote forest after a day of circling, dug a shallow grave, and fled. They admitted money wasn't the sole driver. Resentment fueled them, too. Gu's steep tuition fees for a near-worthless diploma gnawed at them, so they aimed to kidnap him for revenge. With extortion as a bonus, his death derailed that. The ransom notes became a desperate ploy to misdirect police and buy escape time. Instead, their overreach backfired, unraveling their scheme. Despite the clarity of their confessions, the police harbored lingering doubts that gnawed at the edges of the case. The most glaring red flag was the sheer distance to the disposal site. According to police logs from the scene, after driving to the end of a narrow road, reaching the burial spot required over an hour's trek through dense forest, an estimate based on traveling unburdened. As noted earlier, Principal Gu tipped the scales at over 200 pounds, while his two assailants, though young, stood around 5 feet 7 inches and weighed roughly 130 pounds each. Hauling a body that heavy across such a remote stretch, through waist-high brush in a desolate wilderness, bordered on the impossible, a physical feat that strained belief. This discrepancy fueled suspicions of additional players. The police theorized 1 or 2 accomplices might have aided in the grim task of concealment. Yet, no matter how intensely they pressed, Su Jiang and Wang Feng stood firm. It was just the two of them, no one else involved. Complicating matters further, the body's advanced decomposition stymied forensic efforts. Experts couldn't pin down an exact cause of death, whether suffocation from his cramped position in the trunk or a sudden diabetic collapse from missing insulin shots remained plausible but unprovable. After rounds of contentious debates and plea negotiations, Su Jiang and Wang Feng pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter in 2001, each handed a 20-year prison sentence. In a twist of bitter irony, both completed Ontario's grade 12 curriculum behind bars, earning their high school diplomas. Their education didn't stop there. Wang Feng pursued and finished a remote university program in computer science, while Su Jiang secured a degree in financial accounting. The academic ambitions the Great Lakes College of Toronto once dangled before them were finally realized. Not in its classrooms, but within the stark confines of a penitentiary and at no cost to them. Parole records later painted them as exemplary inmates, diligent in their studies and labor, unfailingly courteous to guards and fellow prisoners. Their intelligence and likability won them favor. Su even took on managing the prison canteen's inventory, earning a wage while channeling funds through a charity to support an impoverished child. This model behavior paid off. After 7 years, Canada's Correctional Service, following multiple assessments, concluded their crime was a youthful lapse in judgment. Granted parole, they walked free in 2008. As Chinese nationals, immigration law demanded their immediate deportation, and they were swiftly escorted back to China that same year. The perpetrators served just 7 years behind bars. So what became of Principal Gu's family and the Great Lakes College of Toronto in the aftermath? Online sources reveal that the school passed into the hands of Gu's son following the ordeal. A few years later, it was sold off to an educational organization predominantly run by Indian stakeholders. Today, it endures as a registered private high school, even offering summer camps for international students. An unexpected lifeline for an institution once marred by scandal, the kidnapping at the Great Lakes College of Toronto sent ripples far beyond its walls, prompting Canada and China to tighten oversight of the study abroad industry. A key reform redefined the term academy, mandating that only schools listed as designated learning institutions, DLIs by Canada, could enroll international students. This move curbed the unchecked sprawl of diploma mills to a significant degree. As the saying goes, behind every seemingly redundant regulation lies a hard-earned lesson stained with blood and regret. That brings us to the close of today's case. Wang Feng and Su faced their due punishment. Yet, upon reflection, wasn't Gu himself guilty of kidnapping hundreds of students, holding their futures hostage with exorbitant tuition, housing fees, deposits, and visa costs? What's your take on this tangled saga? Story RNC 5. We're diving back into a story brimming with drama, raw emotion, and costly lessons. The tale of Zheng Shuang, affectionately dubbed Silly Girl by her fans. Once a naive, clumsy, yet endearing figure in the public eye, Zheng Shuang rose to become a symbol of youth for millions. But in a single night, everything crumbled under an avalanche of unimaginable scandals, surrogacy controversies, abandoning her children, tax evasion, and most recently, rumors of becoming the mistress of a wealthy tycoon. In this story, we'll uncover details never before revealed, explore the public's explosive reactions, and peel back the secrets lurking beneath the glitz and glamour. This isn't just the story of a star's downfall. It's a mirror reflecting the dark underbelly of China's entertainment industry. You're watching True Crime in the World, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. As usual, before we begin unraveling today's mystery, please leave us a like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. According to Chinese news outlets, last week a prominent social media account in China, Fu Erdaikai, publicly accused his own father of an affair with actress Zheng Shuang. He alleged that his father had taken a substantial sum of money to the United States to finance the lavish lifestyle of the actress surnamed Zheng. Fu Erdaikai confessed that he feels deep sorrow for his biological mother, who has suffered the betrayal of a man she stood by for years. She's not my mother. I have only one mother. That woman shattered my family's happiness. My father deserted his wife and children, took the money to America, and started living with her. She's pregnant now, Fu Erdaikai stated. He further revealed that his mother is forced to toil tirelessly each day just to get by, while Zheng Shuang enjoys a life of contentment and abundance. Fu Erdaiakai's disclosures immediately ignited widespread attention across Chinese public opinion. Many expressed doubt over the claims of this infamous rich kid, while others eagerly awaited a response from Zheng Shuang herself. The man allegedly involved in a romantic relationship with Zheng Shuang is businessman Yi Yanwei, Fu Erdaiakai's father. Yi Yanwei was once implicated in a scandal involving the embezzlement of pension funds from elderly residents in a rural area of Hainan Province, China. Following that, he reportedly fled to Los Angeles with a large sum of money and has not returned to China since. It's worth noting that this isn't the first time the actress has been accused of involvement with Yi Yanwei. According to a Sina source, Zheng Shuang allegedly met Yi Yanwei and his friends in November 2024, later choosing to stay by his side as a shield against creditors pursuing her. However, Zheng Shuang has vehemently denied these rumors. In a statement on her personal social media, she asserted her management company also shared a recent photo of Zheng Shuang, a close-up capturing only her face. Still, this isn't the first time Silly Girl has been tangled in such allegations. That said, without solid evidence, we shouldn't be quick to condemn anyone. After the post from Zheng Shuang's studio, many netizens began questioning the accusations from the account, claiming to be Yi Yanwei's son. Yet others remained skeptical of Zheng Shuang's transparency, noting that the uploaded photo didn't reveal her midsection. According to several online voices, only a full-body image from Zheng Shuang could truly put an end to the rumors that have been circulating in recent weeks. A representative for Zheng Shuang stated that the actress currently has no desire to engage in the controversy, having hoped to step away from social media to live quietly, focus on her studies, and build a better life through self-improvement. However, the rumors have disrupted her daily life, forcing her to speak out. Zheng Shuang's team has called on the online community to stop spreading baseless claims and warned that legal action will be taken against those posting inaccurate content about the actress. However, this wasn't the first time Zheng Shuang found herself mired in controversy. One of the earliest instances of Silly Girl sparking debate came in 2015, when she joined the reality show I Am an Actor. The program tested the acting skills of celebrities through challenges like performing in front of judges and competing against peers. In one episode, Zheng Shuang was cast as a single mother, but she struggled to convey the required emotions. When the judges critiqued her performance, she broke down in tears under the pressure, even raising her voice at a fellow contestant, plunging the set into tension. A standout moment came when she shouted, "I can't handle this pressure. I can't do it." The clip went viral, racking up over 10 million views on Weibo within 24 hours. The audience split into two camps. Supporters argued that Zhuang and I, as she's affectionately called, was simply too sensitive and vulnerable, a raw, honest display from a young artist. On Weibo, they wrote, "She's only human who doesn't have moments of weakness." Critics, however, slammed her as overdramatic and unprofessional, unfit for the title of youth goddess. A scathing Dubon comment read, "She's acting off screen too. No one can tell what's real or fake anymore." This incident marked the first crack in Silly Girl's wholesome image, revealing the immense public scrutiny young star's face. Zheng Shuang's personal drama reached a boiling point when she began dating Zhang Hang in 2018. Zhang Hang, a young businessman with little fame in the entertainment world, quickly became a focal point alongside her once their relationship went public. Initially dubbed a golden couple by fans, they shared romantic snapshots from dates in Paris and Hawaii on Instagram. In an interview, Zheng Shuang once said, "I feel so safe with him, like I found my harbor." In 2019, the pair secretly traveled to the US and entered a surrogacy agreement. 2 children were born by late 2019, but their relationship soon unraveled. By 2020, they split amid bitterness, with rumors swirling about financial disputes and interference from Zheng Shuang's family. What followed was a scandal that would seal the end of Silly Girl's career. On January 18, 2021, Zhang Heng took to Weibo, accusing Zheng Shuang of abandoning their children, leaving him to care for and protect 2 fragile lives alone. The post exploded online with the hashtag, #Ashes Zheng Shuang abandoned her kids, amassing over 3 billion views on Weibo, sending shockwaves through the internet. Public outrage erupted, branding Zheng Shuang irresponsible and a terrible mother. On X, users raged, "She doesn't deserve to be a mother or an artist." Dubin comments turned vicious. "She's cold, immoral, and deserves to be blacklisted." A small faction of fans defended her, claiming she'd been manipulated by Zhang Heng, but their voices were swiftly drowned out. Chinese authorities weighed in with condemnation. The Political and Legal Affairs Commission of the Communist Party posted on Weibo, declaring surrogacy illegal and accusing Zheng Shuang of using women's wombs as tools and treating life like a commercial product. The scandal ignited a broader debate over surrogacy laws, prompting the government to tighten regulations, a move that rippled out to affect other couples. A full-scale cancellation ensued. Brands like Prada and Lola Rose terminated their endorsement deals, with Prada announcing on Weibo that they were severing all ties due to recent personal life revelations. Films she'd starred in, such as The Enchanting Phantom, were shelved, costing billions of yuan in losses. On January 21, 2021, China's National Radio and Television Administration issued a ban, barring her from all artistic activities in the country. Beyond that, Zheng Shuang faced a tax evasion probe involving 156 million yuan, slapped with a fine exceeding 46 million US dollars. She was forced to sell her luxury Shanghai apartment and expensive cars to settle the debts. In May 2021, during a custody battle in a Denver U.S. court, sole custody was awarded to Zhang Hong, with Zheng Shuang granted only supervised visitation rights. 6 months of silence passed before Zheng Shuang finally spoke out in July 2021, posting an apology on Weibo. "I sincerely apologize for the surrogacy incident and am prepared to accept criticism while reflecting on my mistakes." Yet, this mea culpa fell far short of salvaging her career. The ban imposed on Zheng Shuang was unrelenting, effectively exiling the former youth idol from China and forcing her to relocate to the United States to rebuild her life. In 2023, she shared an update on social media, signaling a focus on raising her children and starting anew with an optimistic note. "I'll face challenges with positivity, but life has been far from kind to silly girl." Zheng Shuang faced multiple lawsuits, ordered to pay over 60 million US dollars in damages to film producers for contract breaches. By 2024, allegations surfaced that she was concealing assets, putting her at risk of a 3-year prison sentence if proven true. In 2024, on her 33rd birthday, Shuang and I posted a tear-streaked selfie that alarmed her fans, accompanied by a caption on her new account: "I'll take responsibility for my mistakes, but the truth will come to light for the accusations I've been falsely blamed for." Rumors swirled that Zheng Shuang was living in dire straits, reportedly drinking tap water to survive and rationing toilet paper, a stark reflection of the hardships she faced after losing her fortune to debt repayments. One could say Zheng Shuang's journey from youth goddess to fallen star saw her lose everything due to relentless personal scandals. Looking back at her career, it's undeniable that she once reigned as one of China's top traffic stars. Born on August 22, 1991, in Shenyang, Liaoning Province, China, Zheng Shuang was a shy, awkward child with a burning passion for the arts. At 16, she earned a coveted spot at the Beijing Film Academy, one of the most prestigious training grounds for young actors. Her big break came in 2009 with her debut role as Chu Yuxian in Meteor Shower, China's adaptation of Boys Over Flowers. The role catapulted her to the forefront of the Chinese entertainment industry, cementing her status as a leading traffic star. Her portrayal not only clinched her the Best New Actress award at the 17th Shanghai Television Festival in 2010, but also crafted an image of innocence and charm that captivated audiences. Zheng Shuang's momentum continued with standout roles in a string of acclaimed films and series, including The Sweet Life, 2012, The Romance of the Condor Heroes, 2013, Love 020, 2016, and Summer Is Yet to Come, 2017. Among them, Love 020 stood out as a massive hit, boasting high ratings and widespread adoration for her portrayal of a modern romantic heroine. The success of the series not only solidified her youth goddess persona, but also paved the way for lucrative partnerships with major brands like Prada and Lola Rose. Zheng Shuang's career wasn't just defined by successful roles, but also by prestigious accolades. She clinched the Best New Actress award at the 17th Shanghai Television Festival in 2010 for Meteor Shower, followed by the Most Popular Actress title at the 16th Huiting Awards in 2013 for The Romance of the Condor Heroes. Silly Girl also earned nominations for honors like the Golden Eagle Award and China TV Drama Award, solidifying her standing in China's entertainment landscape. What set her apart, however, wasn't just her beauty. It was her candid, sometimes endearingly clueless personality. During interviews, Shuang and I often responded with a childlike innocence, dropping lines that left audiences chuckling at her awkward charm. Once, she famously quipped that unfiltered honesty earned her the nickname Silly Girl, a moniker as lovable as it was relatable. Zheng Shuang thrived on social media, regularly posting snippets of her daily life, from selfies to behind-the-scenes glimpses of her shoots, forging a tight bond with her fans. Her role in Love 020 sparked a cultural wave, inspiring fan art, fan fiction, and even offline meetups where devotees dissected her character. A fun tidbit: she skipped grades in elementary school, hinting at an early sharpness that contrasted delightfully with her signature ditzy persona. She was also a frequent face on reality TV, like Divas Hit the Road in 2016, where her sensitive, fragile side shone through. It won her empathy from some viewers, though others criticized her vulnerability. Still, her authenticity kept her fanbase loyal, boasting over 80 million Weibo followers by 2020, before the scandal erupted. The scandal Zhang Shuang faced struck at the core of her morality. Her surrogacy controversy raised a piercing question. Can fame shield ethical missteps? Abandoning her children didn't just enrage the public. It triggered a cascade of legal fallout, from her industry ban to staggering fines. It's a stark reminder that no matter one's status, living with integrity and accountability isn't negotiable. Zhang Shuang's story is a cautionary tale about the fragility of fame. From an A-list star adored by millions, she plummeted to rock bottom in mere days, losing everything: career, reputation, and fortune. It underscores how swiftly stardom can ignite, and how much faster it can vanish if one fails to cherish it and uphold their values. Will Shuang and I one day reclaim her lost glory, or will she remain an enduring symbol of a showbiz tragedy? Story 6. This story unfolds in Taitung Village, Sha Tin, Hong Kong. The husband, Su Jinshan, 50 years old, is an associate professor in the Department of Anesthesia and Intensive Care at the Faculty of Medicine, Chinese University of Hong Kong, and a senior honorary doctor at Prince of Wales Hospital in Sha Tin. His wife, Huang Shufan, 47, is a full-time homemaker. Together, they have 4 children, their eldest daughter, 19, studying at a university in Malaysia, their second daughter, 16, attending high school in Sha Tin, and a third daughter, 12, and youngest son, 11, both in primary school. This family of 6 led a quiet, harmonious life until an abrupt tragedy thrust them into the public eye, where we explore the most puzzling cases and most gripping stories. On May 22, 2015, a Friday, at 3:35 p.m., a woman was walking home from work. As she passed the bus stop opposite Sai Sha Village on Sai Sha Road, she noticed a yellow Mini Cooper parked there. Inside sat 2 figures, utterly still. What caught her attention was the windshield wipers, running incessantly despite a dry day. Curiosity piqued. She peered closer and confirmed 2 people were inside. 40 minutes later, after reaching home and changing into workout gear, she headed out for a run. Passing the bus stop again, she saw the yellow car hadn't budged. An uneasy feeling crept in. Approaching for a closer look, she found the occupants frozen in the same positions. She tapped on the window once, then repeatedly, but got no response. Sensing something dire, she hurriedly dialed the police. Police arrived swiftly at the scene. The yellow car sat awkwardly in the middle of the bus stop, its body slightly tilted. In the driver's seat and passenger seat were 2 women, hands limp, unresponsive. Officers knocked on the windows to no avail. With the doors locked, they called in firefighters for assistance. The rescue team used specialized tools to shatter the glass and pry open the vehicle. After a quick assessment, the 2 women were rushed to the nearby Prince of Wales Hospital. But by 5:30 p.m. that day, both were pronounced dead. The police soon identified them: Huang Shufan, 47, and her daughter, Xu Liling, 16. Investigation revealed that Huang Shufan was born in Malaysia, where she had a younger sister. At 20, she moved to London, training as a nurse in a hospital. There, she met Xu Jinshan, a fellow Malaysian, 3 years her senior and a medical intern. Working side by side, their bond deepened into romance. A few years later, they returned to Malaysia to marry. Xu Jinshan's career soon took off. After their first daughter, Xu Meiling, was born, Xu Jinshan set his sights on Hong Kong to advance his profession. Huang Shufan gave up nursing to relocate with him. In the years that followed, their second daughter, Xu Liling, and 2 more children arrived. Xu Jinshan rose to associate professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, anchoring their family of 6 in a stable, peaceful life. Xu Liling, the daughter who perished alongside her mother, was born in Hong Kong, diagnosed at age 7 with attention deficit disorder, ADD, and dyslexia. She faced early struggles. Yet, with her parents' devoted care, she overcame many hurdles and pressed on with her education. Things seemed to be looking up until this sudden, unthinkable loss. After the incident, police contacted Huang Shufun's husband, Xu Jinshan. He was teaching at the university when the call came. Upon hearing of his wife and daughter's fate, he abandoned his work and raced to Prince of Wales Hospital. Seeing them lifeless on hospital beds, he was overwhelmed with grief, breaking into sobs. Clutching his second daughter tightly, he wailed in anguish, a raw, heart-rending scene that moved everyone present. Yet, amid this torrent of emotion, one officer noticed something off. While Xu Jinshan appeared devastated over his daughter's death, he seemed strangely detached about his wife's passing. This subtle disconnect raised suspicions that this might not be a mere accident. The police opted to send the bodies for a forensic examination. Xu Jinshan didn't object. In fact, he urged them to uncover the truth swiftly. Autopsy results revealed a chilling detail. Both victims had carbon monoxide, CO, levels in their bodies reaching 50%, far exceeding lethal thresholds. The cause of death was clear CO poisoning. Between 12:45 p.m. and 2:55 p.m., police found no obvious anomalies inside the yellow car. The trunk held everyday items, a tennis racket, an umbrella, a plastic tarp, and a deflated gray yoga ball. Nothing else stood out. Suspecting the CO stemmed from the car's exhaust, they reached out to the automaker's headquarters in Germany to investigate the exhaust and ventilation systems for potential design flaws. While awaiting those findings, they questioned Xu Jinshan. He explained that he'd bought the yellow car as a gift for his wife to ferry the kids to school. He drove a separate black vehicle. That morning, at 7:30 a.m., his wife had taken their daughter to school as usual, returning home an hour later. She then tended to the garden until around 10 a.m. before heading inside. Nothing seemed amiss. With no classes that morning, Xu Jinshan stayed home. The family ate lunch together before he left for the university. Over the meal, Huang Shufan mentioned she'd head out at 2 p.m. Xu Liling, with no classes, stayed behind. Before leaving, Xu Jinshan told her, "Stay home and focus on your homework. Don't go out." Yet, for reasons unclear, she joined her mother. When Xu Jinshan next saw them, tragedy had struck. He pleaded with police to unravel what happened, his voice thick with desperation. Though skeptical, the officers lacked solid evidence and released him. Time dragged on. It wasn't until the following year that the German automaker responded. Their analysis ruled out the car's exhaust as the CO source. Rather, it came from an external origin, suggesting deliberate poisoning. This shifted the case from accident to potential murder. The initial car inspection had turned up nothing unusual, so police re-examined every item inside. Their breakthrough came with the deflated yoga ball. Notably, it lacked an air valve. Experts deduced it could serve as an ideal vessel for CO. Further scrutiny confirmed it was empty, its toxic contents fully released, a silent killer unleashed. Police concluded that the perpetrator had pre-filled the yoga ball with CO, placed it the car's trunk, and removed the valve, allowing the toxic gas to slowly seep into the cabin, poisoning Huang Shufun and her daughter. By then, however, the incident had occurred months earlier, and critical evidence at the scene had faded, plunging the investigation into a frustrating deadlock. Undeterred, the police traced CO's suppliers across Hong Kong. Their efforts led them to a man named Chu Haokio. Records showed that on April 8, 2015, he purchased a canister of 99.9% pure CO from a gas equipment company. Suspicion deepened when they discovered that, while Chu Haokio made the purchase, the email inquiring about prices had come from Xu Jinshan himself. Xu Jinshan was summoned again. He admitted to asking his assistant to buy the CO canister, claiming it was for a study on how the gas affects respiratory systems at certain concentrations. He even said he'd consulted another professor to procure lab animals for the experiment, a detail that professor later corroborated. Soon after, Chu Haokyo proactively contacted the police with a crucial tip. He recalled witnessing Su Jinshan inflate 2 gray yoga balls with CO after a lab experiment at the university, then carry them out. Puzzled, Chu had asked why. Su Jinshan replied that he intended to deliver the gas to a friend to test its concentration. Chu Haokyo's testimony sharpened the police's focus on Su Jinshan. They suspected he'd orchestrated a plan to kill his wife, never anticipating their second daughter would tag along, resulting in both their deaths. This explained his anguished sobs over his daughter at the hospital, grief overshadowed by apparent indifference to his wife's fate. Further digging revealed Su Jinshan's cited experiment had been conducted long before, and its findings were irrelevant to human applications, a fact any scientist of his caliber would know. The only plausible motive for acquiring CO was sinister, masked by a flimsy research excuse. Confronted, Su Jinshan countered, "Yes, the study was old, but that doesn't mean it's worthless for further exploration. I used the yoga balls because the lab lacked proper containers. I had to improvise. I put them in my car. One leaked, so I discarded it. The other I took home to deal with rats." His story clashed with Chu Haokyo's account. Police then interviewed the family's maid. She testified, "I've never seen rats in the house. Besides, we have a cat for that. That afternoon, I watched Huang Shufan and the second daughter leave. They weren't carrying any yoga balls." The inconsistencies piled up, cementing Su Jinshan as the prime suspect in this chilling case. Su Jinshan was born in Malaysia, where he excelled academically. At 23, he moved to London for further studies, earning a Bachelor of Medicine in Surgery. It was there he met Huang Shufan, sparking a romance that led to marriage. By 28, he became a Fellow of the Royal College of Anaesthetists in the UK. His career focus later shifted to Hong Kong. In 1997, he was recognized as a Fellow of the Hong Kong Academy of Medicine and appointed Associate Professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong that same year. Su Jinshan's career soared while his wife stepped back to become a full-time homemaker, dedicating herself to their 4 children. He was often consumed by work, logging overtime, traveling for conferences, and mingling with colleagues, while she remained homebound, tethered to childcare. Their diverging lifestyles eroded shared ground for conversation. Over time, Su Jinshan grew visibly impatient with his wife, eventually excluding her from events he attended. In 2004, at 39, Su Jinshan met a student named Li Yongyi at the university. She was 23, vibrant, beautiful, sharp, and gifted. Pursuing a PhD in anesthesia and intensive care at the Faculty of Medicine, she studied under Su Jinshan's guidance. Despite a 16-year age gap, a bond blossomed, transcending the typical mentor-student dynamic. Li Yongyi's energy captivated him. They shared not just academic passions, but a deeper, unspoken connection. Su Jinshan plunged into the affair, unable to pull away. The two were often seen together on campus, their closeness resembling that of lovers. In 2007, Su Jinshan spent 1.24 million Hong Kong dollars to buy an apartment in Yuzhue Court, turning it into their clandestine meeting spot. Reports indicate that during her studies, Li Yongyi published several research papers, mostly co-authored with Su Jinshan. After the incident, their relationship intensified. They lived together like a married couple, inseparable by day, even traveling abroad on multiple occasions. After Huang Shufan's death, Su Jinshan showed no trace of sorrow, instead openly appearing with Li Yongyi at various locations. Police investigations revealed that Li Yongyi had been present in the lab multiple times during Su Jinshan's CO experiments, raising suspicions of her involvement. A year after the incident, both were arrested on charges of murder. They denied the accusations. Su Jinshan admitted to bringing the yoga ball home, but claimed ignorance about how it ended up in his wife's car trunk. As for the affair, he insisted his wife had long known, their marriage persisting in name only for the children's sake, with no formal divorce. Phone records showed that the night before the incident, Su Jinshan and Li Yongyi exchanged 4 calls. This flurry of communication fueled speculation about whether they were plotting something. Li Yongyi staunchly maintained her innocence, saying she was drawn to Su Jinshan's brilliance and never intended to ruin his family. She simply wanted to be near him. As her advisor, they often collaborated on experiments which she deemed unremarkable. The calls, she claimed, were purely academic discussions. With insufficient evidence, police released her. A search of Su Jinshan and Huang Shufan's home followed. Located in Taitung Village, Sha Tin District, the four-story house featured a ground floor with a kitchen, living room, and gym. The second floor housed the three daughters' rooms. The third held Su Jinshan, his wife, and their youngest son's bedrooms. And the top floor was the maid's quarters. After a thorough sweep, police found a yoga ball valve in a desk drawer in Su Jinshan's third-floor study. It matched the ball from Huang Shufan's car trunk perfectly. Su Jinshan said he had no idea how the valve got there. He maintained that after bringing the yoga ball home, he placed it in the gym without removing the valve. He speculated that his wife, exhausted from caring for their frail second daughter, who'd been sickly since childhood, demanding more effort than most kids, might have buckled under prolonged stress and mental strain, perhaps driving her to despair. With Su Jinshan steadfastly denying the charges and evidence falling short of conclusive, police had to let him go. As the investigation stalled, Huang Shufan's younger sister, Huang Shufang, reached out with a vital lead. She described her sister as cheerful and optimistic, devoted to her 4 children, hardly someone prone to dark thoughts. She pointed the finger at her brother-in-law. Su Jinshan, she said, seemed upright but hid a dangerous streak. He was cold to his wife, dismissive of household duties and child care, often citing work to avoid home. No one else, she argued, could orchestrate such madness. After the tragedy, Su Jinshan's eldest daughter, Su Meiling, returned from Malaysia to Hong Kong. She told police she'd long suspected her father's affair with Li Yongyi. When Li came to tutor at their home, Su Meiling sensed something off between them. She once quietly confronted her father, but he brushed her off. Studying abroad in Malaysia, she'd hoped he'd refocus on her mother and family. Now she felt deep disillusionment with him, though she remained unsure if he could truly be cruel enough to harm his own kin. At the same time, a woman named Feng Weiyi approached the police of her own accord. She introduced herself as Huang Shufan's close friend, claiming a deep understanding of her family dynamics. Feng Weiyi explained that tensions between Huang Shufan and her husband had escalated since she left her job to raise their 4 children full-time. The core of their discord lay in conflicting views on parenting. Su Jinshan envisioned his children following in his footsteps, becoming contributors to society. Huang Shufan, however, believed in sparing them excessive pressure, prioritizing their health and happiness above all. As time passed, Su Jinshan grew increasingly close to Li Yongyi at the university, even bringing her along to various events. Their bond became an open secret among his circle of friends, who grew accustomed to her presence. Feng Weiyi, Huang Shufan's confidant, also noticed the shift, but held her tongue, fearing it might fracture her friend's family. Unaware, Huang Shufan remained in the dark, blinded to the truth unfolding around her. Su Jinshan went further, using the pretext of hiring a Chinese tutor for their 3 younger children to bring Li Yongyi into their home. He passed her off as an outside teacher, a lie Huang Shufan accepted without question. She even welcomed Li warmly during her visits. Feng Weiyi recalled Huang Shufan once mentioning how the children's Chinese skills had noticeably improved since the tutor started coming. On several occasions, Feng considered revealing the truth, but each time, the fear of hurting her friend stopped her words short, leaving the deception intact. It wasn't until 2013, during a casual gathering with friends, that Huang Shufan overheard someone mention seeing her husband dining intimately with a young woman at a restaurant. Shaken, she confided in Feng Weiyi afterward. Listening to her friend's distress, Feng Weiyi realized she could no longer stay silent and revealed the full truth. Learning that Su Jinshan had been unfaithful for 9 years left Huang Shufan reeling, as if her entire world had collapsed. She had shared over 2 decades with him, raising 4 children together, never imagining he could betray her so callously. From that moment, a heavy gloom settled over her. Her despair seeped into daily life, pushing her to seek help from a psychologist. Police later contacted the doctor, who confirmed Huang Shufan suffered from moderate depression and anxiety. Her husband's infidelity had dealt a crushing blow, leaving her sleepless and fragile. Fortunately, treatment gradually eased her condition. She began spending more time with her children, exploring new hobbies, and finding positive outlets to cope with her pain. But could Su Jinshan have truly plotted to kill his wife to be with his lover? He insisted she had accepted his affair, even tacitly agreeing to let him spend a few nights a week at his mistress's place. They could discuss divorce or separation, but couldn't settle on who would raise the kids. Neither could fully walk away, nor manage the children alone, so they opted to maintain their shared life. Su Jinshan handed police a diary, noting his wife's habit of journaling daily events. Upon review, they found no bitterness toward him. Instead, Huang Shufan turned inward, blaming herself. She wrote that her sensitivity often magnified family disputes, fixating on trivial matters that widened the rift with her husband. She also admitted that years of child-rearing had left her in shapeless house clothes, her hair neglected, eroding the common ground they once shared. Recognizing this, she enrolled in women's self-development and yoga classes, started paying attention to her appearance, and worked to reclaim her confidence through makeup and a refreshed wardrobe. Su Jinshan maintained that no one wanted this tragedy to happen. Their marriage had just begun to show signs of mending, with both striving to provide their children a complete family. If it wasn't an accident, he suggested, it might tie back to their second daughter, Su Liling. In life, she'd often complained about overwhelming school pressure, expressing a desire to quit studying, and even uttering bleak remarks like, "Life feels meaningless." He suspected she struggled with mental health issues the family hadn't fully grasped. 2 days before the incident, Su Jinshan brought a yoga ball home and placed it in the gym. Su Liling was exercising there at the time. He warned her, "Don't touch that ball. It's filled with toxic gas for killing rats," before heading upstairs. He theorized that she might have harbored a plan to escape her troubles, quietly removing the valve and stashing the ball in the car trunk when no one was looking. Police found this explanation plausible on the surface, yet it left 2 questions unanswered. Why would Su Liling involve her mother? And how did the removed valve end up in Su Jinshan's desk drawer? To verify his claims, police interviewed Su Liling's classmates, uncovering a starkly different picture. She was a cheerful, outgoing girl, always eager to join school activities, showing no signs of depression. Just before the incident, she'd excitedly discussed summer travel plans with friends, hardly the behavior of someone contemplating an end to her life. Huang Shufan's psychologist offered another critical clue. She revealed that Huang had confided about Su Jinshan spending only 3 days a week at home, with each return sparking arguments. Exhausted by this cycle, Huang proposed divorce in June 2014, only for him to refuse, a direct contradiction to Su Jinshan's earlier claim that they stayed together for the kids. Now, police wondered, was Su Jinshan's resistance to divorce truly about the children or something else? A breakthrough came from Huang Shufan's yoga instructor, who exposed the truth. The couple co-owned a massive fortune. Their savings alone totaled 6.8 million Hong Kong dollars, not counting a jointly held company, and 7 properties valued over 50 million Hong Kong dollars combined. If one spouse died, the survivor inherited everything. Divorce meant splitting it all in half. Perhaps Su Jinshan couldn't bear to see his hard-earned wealth divided, driving his steadfast refusal to end the marriage. Furthermore, police uncovered that Huang Shufan had purchased multiple insurance policies in Malaysia, including a personal accident plan with a payout of 5.07 million Hong Kong dollars, naming her husband, Su Jinshan, as the primary beneficiary. In 2014, Huang Shufan repeatedly pushed for divorce, only to face rejection from Su Jinshan each time. His greed knew no bounds. He offered her just 1/6 of their shared fortune, igniting fierce disputes that dragged on without resolution. At this point, police pieced together Su Jinshan's motive. If his wife died in an accident, he'd sidestep asset division, pocket a massive insurance windfall, and free himself from the marriage to join his lover, a calculated move that paid off on every front. In September 2017, police arrested Su Jinshan again, charging him with murder. By August 2018, 3 years after the incident, the case reached Hong Kong's High Court. Su Jinshan faced 2 counts of murder, with his 2 daughters and youngest son present at the trial. In court, the defendant opted not to testify, allowing his recorded police statements to play instead. Chu Haoxiao, a prosecution witness, took the stand. He testified that on May 20, 2015 at 2 p.m., he, Su Jinshan, and other technicians conducted a lab experiment. Su Jinshan injected CO into a white rabbit to observe its reactions. At 4 p.m., Li Yongyi joined them. 30 minutes later, the experiment wrapped up, and Chu Haoxiao saw Su Jinshan transfer the remaining CO into 2 yoga balls before leaving with them. When asked, Su Jinshan claimed he was taking the gas home to kill rats. Yet the family's maid had already testified there were no rats in the house. Su Jinshan repeatedly shifted blame onto the victims. He first labeled his wife as mentally unstable, then suggested his second daughter suffered psychological issues and emotional volatility. Yet evidence painted a different picture. Neither victim showed signs of suicidal intent. Moreover, the maid confirmed that on the day of the incident, neither victim carried a yoga ball when leaving, implying Su Jinshan had planted them in the car beforehand. A close friend of Su Jinshan testified as a defense witness, portraying him as cautious, composed, and reserved. He patiently answered questions from anyone, earning respect at the university as a man of both talent and virtue. No one could fathom him committing such an act. The judge noted that Su Jinshan and his wife co-owned a vast fortune, yet he had been unfaithful. This provided grounds to believe he murdered Huang Shufin over asset disputes, unintentionally dragging their second daughter, Su Liling, into the tragedy. After nearly a month of proceedings in September 2018, a jury of 5 men and 4 women deliberated for 7 hours. The High Court delivered its verdict. Su Jinshan was guilty of 2 counts of murder. Su Jinshan rejected the ruling and appealed to Hong Kong's Court of Final Appeal. His defense argued there was no concrete evidence proving he placed the yoga ball in the car trunk. Moreover, the household owned multiple yoga balls, and the valve found in his desk drawer wasn't definitively linked to the one used in the vehicle. Once the media seized the story, public outrage erupted. The tale of a Chinese University of Hong Kong associate professor entangled in an affair and accused of eliminating his wife and daughter ignited heated debate. Reports indicated that Su Jinshan's lover, Li Yongyi, emerged unscathed. After the incident, she continued as an assistant professor at the university, even securing a promotion to associate professor in 2019. By June 2023, the Court of Final Appeal accepted Su Jinshan's appeal, ordering a retrial, a decision that reignited public furor as it left open the chance he could be acquitted. Controversy over the case has never subsided. Did he truly kill his wife and daughter? Perhaps only Su Jinshan knows the full truth. And the night deepens. Thank you for being here with me at Radio Night Crime. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the need to stay aware, even in the stillness of the night. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the sound of the rain lull you to sleep, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night keep you company.